This is Father Gregory Pine, and welcome to Godsplaining. Thanks to all those who support us. If you enjoy the show, please consider making a monthly donation on Patreon. Be sure to like and subscribe to Godsplaining wherever you listen to your podcasts. For this guest episode, I am delighted, I am overjoyed to have in the studio Stacey Sumereau. Stacey Sumereau is a wife and a mother, a podcaster, author, mindset coach, and doer of various cool things. When we sat down to have a conversation, we spent like the first 35 minutes actually doing some mindset coaching. That is to say, she was coaching me on my mindset. And then we started the episode at that point and had your normal kind of in-studio guest episode length. So this is a jump cut by way of introduction that the next 35 minutes will sound like we hadn't started the episode because we haven't. And then we will start the episode, and then you will have the episode, and then we will end the episode. So if you're like, I don't want to hear Father Gregory mindset coached, you can skip 35 minutes. If you're like, I do want to hear Father Gregory mindset coached, well then, buckle up. You're in for a wild ride. More and more, especially in the last 3 years, I am becoming my mom, not my dad.
So this is interesting to me. Tell me more.
Yeah, well, my mom kind of lived her life on the verge of tears. Some of that, mild imbalance. Some of that, just, a great sensitivity to the beauty of life. Mm-hmm. I would say I used to cry like once a year. And it wasn't like a thing on which I prided myself. It's like each time I cried, I'd be like, when was the last time I cried? It's been a minute, It's like watching A Walk to Remember with Mandy Moore, you're like,
yeah.
Yeah, but now it's like every day. Not quite every day, but like every other day.
Do you know the purpose of our emotions?
I do.
Yeah.
But I'm here for it.
Just curious. So, so the purpose of our emotions is to incline us to action, right? It's Catechism 1772. What do you think that the tears are inclining you toward, or what do you think their purpose is?
I think I'm getting like broken open to human life in new ways.
Wow.
And I used to think about human life as like a task to be executed. I'm beginning to appreciate it more as just like a suffering to be endured. Not like a bad suffering, but like there's a lot of ways in which life just kind of happens to you.
Do you think there's a grief involved? Because that sounds like grief to me when you said
there's
suffering.
Certainly like, there's certainly like a grief involved. But I also think that there's like a kind of mourning, which especially like, I think people peak and then the rest of their life, there's a kind of recognition that they have peaked. I think you might peak in high school. I think you might peak like in middle age. But at a certain point, like people whom you love start dying. And you realize that like the people with whom I've had the most meaningful relationships, that number is going to go down. Like even if I continue
Has it gone down yet or no?
Yes.
It has.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
so the tears might be a result of that grief.
Yeah.
Which is a very direct line, but then there's also a bigger picture going on of this will keep happening, this will keep happening.
That's part of it, but the thing is like it's not just a reflection of the fragility of interpersonal relationships. I think it's just a reflection of the fact that like life, while brutal, is also beautiful. And without being cheap, but like at a certain point, you're just like, holy freaking smokes.
Yeah. It's kind of just hitting you in a big way, like a tidal wave.
Yeah. Especially in the last year. But like, it's been 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you think that the Lord is going to bring you through this period of grief to the point where a new life can kind of
maybe
spring up? Even while you keep losing people you love, there could be a new birth going on. Maybe.
I'm willing to grant it as a possibility.
I think that would be like the Lord, right? Like that's kind of like how he works in a lot of times. I've noticed with each, so I haven't lost a significant number. I've been through a lot of trauma the last 4 years with I know that's such an overused word, but I have a special needs daughter. It's very strange for me coming to DC because she spent a month at Children's National right up the road from here. Yeah. So that was an interesting time.
Yeah.
But I haven't been grieving people that I've lost. But what I've noticed is a lot of relationships, there's been a lot of disappointment in people. And it's interesting. I feel like each of those relationships, God has just taken away the security that I thought was there and the expectations that I thought I could have for what those people would do for me, especially because I've been just like in a very much needier place than I would ever have liked to be. With a special needs daughter, you're just very vulnerable. You just have a lot of needs. And then I feel like it's interesting out of those relationships, I've said to my husband, I'm like, I feel like each of my close relationships, there's been a death. But then each one slowly, maybe not all of them, I don't know if it's going to be all of them or not, but a number of them have become something new after that death. It's like I really have to mourn it, and it really makes me sad, and there's a lot of tears for quite a while. And I'm like, when is this going to end? And then eventually there is kind of a new relationship that can arise out of realistic expectations. It's like I was seeking something from those relationships that the people actually couldn't give me. So I don't know if that relates to you at all. You're like feeling it on a life scale, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to a specific relationship.
I think I'm coming to an appreciation of what my life actually is. Because there's a sense in which, like, you put that question off in anticipation of certain benchmarks, deadlines, life goals. You know, like for us, religious life, it's like profession 1, profession 2, ordination 1, ordination 2, degree 1, degree 2.
Are you degree 2 now?
I'm degree 2 now.
Okay.
Yeah. I came back to the United States and I was like, today is the first day of the rest of my life. And there weren't these kind of, not to say that profession, ordination, you know, degrees are extrinsic things, but they kind of are extrinsic things insofar as the agency is in part that of another. Whereas it's like, okay, what's going to continue to motivate? And I think I've been surprised by like how simple, modest, humble, seemingly insignificant the things that motivate in fact are. Because it's like you can have a grand plan for yourself. And maybe that grand plan corresponds with reality.
Yeah.
Maybe it doesn't. But like I'm not to say, you know, religious can't have grand plans, but I think part of our grand plan is worked out in very concrete, small, humble, modest details.
Absolutely. For everybody. That's religious and lay as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just like, do I know what definitive shape my life will take? No. Do I trust that it's something of an adventure? Yeah. But like every good adventure story, I mean, at least the tragicomic ones, which are the ones which kind of cling most closely to, or cleave most closely to the facts of the matter, they just entail certain difficulties, you know?
Yeah.
And then like when you encounter those difficulties, you have to interpret them in light of an overall narrative framework when you only know like a bit of it.
Yes.
You know, so it's like, where does this fit? And
Yeah.
I think the answer sometimes is, I don't know, which makes it then complicates the question of like, who am I and what am I for? And so then you have to keep bringing it back down to the small things.
Yes.
Lest it, you know.
And you're melancholic, so you're an idealist, I'm guessing, right? And there's like that pain of the gap, right, between what's real and what's and the ideal that you can see. And so you're kind of continually having to, like you said, bring it back to the small moments of like, all right, well, this is my adventure. I'm signing on for an adventure, and all I can see is like the next curve in the road. I can't see beyond that, and there's like a constant pain in that. But when you're experiencing tears, what are you thinking? I'm curious. What's the thought that's causing the tears?
Yeah, so like a lot of my life is metacognitive or like metanarratival in the sense that I'm like, nah, I'm crying again, you know? And then you're like...
Can you identify a thought? Like if there was a script of your mind, can you identify a thought behind that?
Yeah. Oh,
okay.
like lots of them. Yeah.
Okay, what's the thought that's like turns on the waterworks?
I mean, there's like, well, like some of them are just genuinely moved by, and basically anytime I write a homily and I use an example from my life or the life of a saint, which I find very moving, it just causes tears.
Okay.
And so like I was writing a homily and I included a little tidbit about St. Maximilian Kolbe. I cried when I was writing it out by hand. I went to my computer to type it up. I cried when I was typing it up. You know, but there are things too where it's like, I think about the fact, you know, like my mom died almost 4 years ago now. I still think, you know, like I think about the fact that my mom is dead, and that thought is still so potent. It's just so potent.
It's like right there.
It's right there.
Yeah.
And I think that like when those thoughts kind of, or those feelings kind of break through, it alerts you to how very close they are, you know, like, or how very near they are to your conscious experience.
Yeah.
And then it's like, sweet Christmas. Like, can I afford to be this tender all the time? You know, it's like, it's gotten to the point where it's like, sometimes I like can't finish homilies. Like I'm like shutting homilies down because I'm like,
I can't do it. Would you, so when you think my mother's dead and then it causes the waterworks, what does that mean when you think my mother's dead? Like, what's the subtext under that? Like, and therefore I can't live. Therefore, I'm like, what's the
See,
subtext?
I don't really have many expectations as to like what's going to happen, like what's going to take place or what's going to take shape, maybe.
But there's a way that you could say like, my mother is dead, but I'm at peace with it, or my mother is dead, but I'm suffering, or something. It's not.
It's just like my mother's dead and I feel exposed. I think that's what it's like.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I think there's something about, I mean, people that have different experience of their mother's love, but for me, my mom's love was a sure thing. You know, it was a secure base.
So the love is only in heaven, not a concrete earthly thing anymore.
I mean, there are people who love me on earth, and they love me
Sure.
in very real ways.
Yeah.
But I think there's a sense in which
that
like
love.
like that love can never be imperiled. You know, like there's nothing that you can do
Yeah.
in a certain sense to imperil that love. And I think that like I find myself, you know, I would find myself throughout my life and then recently in a different way, but like in really stressful situations, especially interpersonal conflicts or things that are like totally irreconcilable, I feel very exposed. And then
Yeah.
it's almost like you think, I have a mother, you know, and you're like, I'll be all right.
Yeah.
You know, but when you don't have a mother, it's like, I'm just exposed. And it's not that I
Yeah.
draw the next conclusion, like, I won't be all right. Because often enough, it's like, you know, there are things that people take in stride.
So what does exposed mean to you then? Like, yeah, it has a word. It has a meaning to you. Like this is where the waterworks come from. Well, what does that mean to you specifically?
Yeah, I think that like, so I say, I think that the substance of life is being with people in meaningful and purposeful fashion. Like that's it. So I think it's just communion, top to bottom, start to finish. But I also think that, you know, like that state of being is facilitated by an operating, you know, or facilitated by an activity in the sense that like you have to get the things done in order to support the communion.
Yeah.
And so there's the kind of checklist in service of the relationship.
Okay.
But I think that a lot of us are at risk of living life qua checklist.
Yeah.
In a way that drifts from relationship, and then the
communion,
checklist
yeah.
begins to obscure the relationship dimension. And I think like when I feel exposed, it's like I'm just checklisting and I'm not communing.
So
You know,
you're
it's
not
just like,
you're not having the best part of life anymore.
well, it's
kind
not
of.
even about my enjoyment. I don't really think too terribly much about my enjoyment, if you can believe that.
Okay.
Because like
Sure.
I don't expect much in the way of
Yeah.
enjoyment. Kind of like a weird Bond villain who doesn't experience pain. I'm like the opposite. No, but like when in those instances, it's like that. I suppose like the threat is, or the menace is.
Yeah.
Maybe this amounts to very little, or maybe this amounts to nothing.
Oh, okay.
You know, like
Maybe
if it
this
is,
amounts to nothing.
yeah, if it is precious to someone, then
Yeah.
yeah, you're gonna have to prove it to me. Because I think there's a way that you can just kind of like plug and chug
Yeah.
and chug without actually making reference to the persons for whom, you know, like the reason for which.
Yep.
And then that becomes in turn like,
So the root of the problem is this actually amounts to very little, like all the things you're doing.
yeah.
And there's like a whole, yeah. So then when you think that and the tears come, what's the one word emotion you're feeling?
Oh, I don't know that I can do that.
Is it hopeless?
No, I wouldn't say that it's hopeless.
Is it despondency?
Maybe despondency. Yeah, I'd say like I experience, it's funny. I used to give like the trifecta of sad, lonely, anxious. That was just my kind of self-description. But in a certain sense, not that I like remain attached to negative emotion because of some sense in which it makes me feel like special. But like I could see a kind of silver lining to it insofar
Yeah.
as one, it made me more cognizant of my dependence, my reliance upon the Lord, and like eminently conscious of the fact that I couldn't supply myself with anything like genuine beatitude.
Okay.
And
Sure.
two, it had a way of building a bridge to other people kind of in their experience
Yeah.
of sadness,
Yes.
loneliness, and anxiety.
Right. It was like, oh, this is for a purpose. This is
Yeah.
for a reason.
And it was like, I mean, every day it was like I met somebody and I could just say like, I see you.
Yeah.
You know?
Which is perfect for your calling.
Yeah.
Right. That's like what you do in your vocation. And it's for people to feel seen by you is like huge in their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you always had that silver lining and you feel like, does this thought kind of take away that silver lining?
No, it's just like, I just haven't, like over the course of the past 10 years, I would say less so sad, lonely, and anxious. Those things are all still present insofar as like temperamentally they're baked in.
Okay. Okay. Melancholic.
Yeah, melancholic. Yeah. But I'd say that like the experience of this is more so, I'm like not middle age. I'm 36,
Oh,
but
me
like
too.
getting on towards middle age in the sense
Okay.
of you didn't know what life would be, 10 years ago, but you
Yeah.
imagined that it would be different. Even
Yeah.
if you didn't have a concrete imagination as to what it would look like, it wasn't this,
Mm-hmm.
like I think sometimes people will be like, oh man, your life must be awesome. Just like flying around in your Kappa and just like, raising the dead and stuff. Like, okay. Like a lot of my life is, kind of living under a rock and sitting in front of a computer screen and tapping out chapters to books that people may or may not read.
Yeah.
Like the content of which may or may not be that good,
Yeah. Sure. I'm curious. I'm curious if you were to carry out the same tasks, but you had a real deep faith, like a really like a conviction that it was going to amount, that God was going to bring good out of it and it was going to amount to something.
Yeah.
Would that would take away the menace of this thought? it all amounts to very little?
No, I think that like honestly, I don't think that anything. Well, this will sound despair filled, but like I don't think that anything about my experience needs to change in order for my experience to be more meaningful or purposeful.
Okay.
Because I do think that like what salvages it is faith. Faith is a gift, not something that you necessarily do, but faith is a gift.
Yeah.
Born of which is hope and love. So if I can, even in small ways, like offer it,
Yeah.
you know, in the sense that I can see that there's one for whom it matters, and you know, he appoints the means whereby others to like that matter to him are saved, and that it might represent in some way, shape, or form like a step along the way in conversion for whomever, at least for me, because in formulating these concepts as I plunk away at my computer, I myself am forced to contend with the fact that I speak somewhat irresponsibly and am made to write more responsibly because I have to rein in my prose. And then like if I can do it for him, I think that's actually like, I think that's actually possible. I think that a lot of people are afraid that there's only egotistic love. You know, like there is no such thing is
As
genuinely
truly
generous
sacrificial love.
Yeah.
Oh, I know that's not true.
There you go.
I'm not one of them. Are you?
Am I one of whom?
You're not one of the people who think that only egotistical love is possible?
I'm tempted by the thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
At times, you know, like lonely hours of the night.
So when you think then, so I'm doing my mindset coach thing on you. I hope you
That's
don't mind.
great.
I think this is really fascinating though. So when you say it amounts to very little is it is a term that's not measured, or it's an undefined measurement.
Yeah.
So that to me makes me curious. Like what would very much be? What does very little mean?
Yeah.
You know, what does that actually mean?
So like, I think part of this is like the desertification born of religious life. Like religious life is in certain senses kind of inhumane. That's acknowledged in the tradition. You know, it's like that you work contrary to certain natural inclinations.
Yes.
Which natural inclinations, while introducing certain difficulties into your life, also bring about certain real consolations.
Yes.
So the religious just sets a lot of those things aside.
Yeah, you're speaking about like the poverty, chastity, obedience, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So
Just like
living in an
setting aside-
elevated way that's really kind of superhuman.
Like I don't have like a cool, sporty, I don't know, Honda HRV that I can use to get high up into the mountains and pitch off on whatever trailhead, you know, toting my sweet Patagonia better sweater and my, who cares? You know, it's just like, I just don't, but like I don't have a family with whom to experience those things.
Whoever took this picture, right?
Exactly. That guy. He's crushing it.
He's willing.
We're going to get there eventually.
Yeah, that's fine.
This is
good.
going to be an episode in reverse.
Are we actually recording right now?
We are, yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is great.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure when we started. Okay,
No,
this is great.
This is great. So we'll introduce this episode later.
I love it.
Yeah, so I think what it amounts to very, like, a lot of the stuff that I do is in a digital space. It's like testified to that when you do stuff in a digital space, it's never enough, you know, because viewership is potentially infinite, subscription is potentially infinite, likes, whatever, you know, comments are potentially infinite, and there's always going to be some comparative standard according to which you're failing, or you know, lacking,
right?
And so you're never
what
going
is enough?
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
What does enough mean when it comes to the digital space? Totally.
So
if
like,
you're saying very little,
yep,
and the subtext under that is never enough, right?
I think that might be part of the subtext.
Okay.
But I also just think like part of it too is just the recognition of an existential devastation, which is present in every human life, but I think especially present in the life of a religious. Because like in the life of a religious, the only thing that you are promised is Jesus. That's it. Nothing else. Nothing, literally nothing else.
Yeah.
You know?
But that's also everything.
Exactly. But it's in everything that's premised upon faith, hope, and charity. You get access to an invisible world, but you have to put on your invisible glasses in order to see the things that lie beyond, you know? So like,
yeah. So I'm curious then. So what I do as a mindset coach a lot is try to discern whether the thoughts are from the Lord or whether they're actually a temptation. So what are the fruits of that thought? When you think the thought like all of this is amounts to very little. And then you feel a despondency. What's kind of the fruit of that? What do you feel inclined to do?
Like I don't know. I'm out of touch with those feelings because I just do the same thing every day.
You act under obedience.
But I just work, you know, like so.
But do you do it with kind of like a diligence that is, you know, where you believe in this work, or is it more like you're kind of just like doing what's in front of you and you're like despondent the whole time? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So like I believe and I hope and I love a lot of the things which I undertake, but also as I'm doing them, I'm looking at them in their infancy or in their adolescence and think like, this is trash. You know, so like I was writing chapter 5 like to a book about sins of speech this morning from 8 to 12 with whatever, momentary interruptions at various points. And I was just thinking like this at present is false. Not in the sense that
Meaning
any
it
of the
feels
actual
false to you?
propositions, propositions are false, but in the sense that it doesn't actually like flow organically from my experience. Like I haven't suffered for these words. I wrote these words because they were easy. And if I'm going to suffer for real words that actually correspond to people's experience and build a bridge and conduce to, like knowledge and love of God, then I'm going to have to work. So like I'm experiencing the work at present, but also the work at future, and the combined weight of both works is kind of like, oh, sweet Christmas, just like put me out of my misery.
So that's interesting then. So you're going to be doing the same thing no matter what, but there's a sense of, there's an accompanying heaviness that comes with kind of the downstream effect of this thought, right?
Yeah.
So then I'm curious, like do you think the Lord or do you think the devil would want you to keep thinking that thought?
I mean, like I can give you propositional answers to all these questions in a way that's relatively straightforward, So like I get that.
Yeah.
But I also think that like, so I think that the evil one does discourage. I think that the evil one does.
I think that's like the number
despair.
one thing, to be honest with you. I think that's the number one thing that like I see people struggling with. Maybe it's not, but my perception is that discouragement is just present across like he's really launching an attack on good people trying to do good things.
Yeah.
And if he can get you discouraged, then maybe you do the same work, but it's not with that joy, and it's not with that excitement. Yeah.
Yeah.
And not to say that, like, I also see, like, because I wrote a book. So I know sometimes too, writing books is just plugging away. You're like, all right, these words need to go on the paper, and then you'll go back and refine them later. And maybe you can't always create this like excitement around writing. It is work. But then if it's constantly sort of this slogging, just the wrong vowel.
We can make words up.
Drudgery feels like drudgery constantly, then can we trace it back all the way to the thought and see, like, is this thought useful, or is this thought a temptation towards, or is it holy? Does it bring me closer to charity with, God and others and myself? Or is it something that the evil one would love for me to keep thinking, to keep me locked in this place?
Yeah, I think,
and there could be here. I mean, it's really cool for me to like actually get to pick apart your brain a little bit, because there's truth in everything you say, right? But if there's even a little bit of a lie mixed in, then it's a lie, right? And so like finding out where the lie is, if there is one, is kind of interesting, because everything you said, it's not like you're crazy off your rocker over here crying on the floor, right? You can function, and you have a lot of, I know, isn't that nice? Look at us, 36-year-old adults here.
Just crushing it.
But even if there's a little lie mixed in, it's kind of like that, like poisons the good, or the good thoughts that are also present, and the truth that's also present. So what if, like, what if the thought that, and I'm not saying like thought swapping is a good idea. It's not, because you don't believe it, right? You don't believe, if you're just like, oh, everything has so much meaning. Like, no. But like, what if the truth is that, like, I don't always feel into these things or whatever, or it is true that my mother died. It is true that I'm exposed, but I also have everything because the Lord is taking care of me, which is a reality that you already know. But like God's gonna bring. But what that means then is that God's gonna bring the fruit that He wants from these actions, which to me is like the ultimate comforting thing, because I can work and work and work, and I actually have projects I'm working on right now that are not coming to fruit in the way that I wish that they would, and I'm grappling with it, and I just come back to over and over again in prayer, like, I'm a gardener. I have so many plants at home. I love them. And I just keep thinking, as I'm weeding the garden, like, I plant the seeds, the Lord delivers the results. And that to me that's hope, right? That's like the most hopeful thing that I could ever think, because it's like, it's only up to me to plant the seeds. Lord's going to do what He wants with it. How does that hit you?
I believe that.
Okay.
I think too, like,
does that shift anything for you? It's like, oh yeah, this is something true I can latch onto in those moments where I'm like, why can I not finish this homily?
Yeah.
Or is that not? It's not quite there yet.
It's not that. No, it's just, it's mostly with like, So I did to myself what I am now experiencing. Not to assign blame in an overly, kind of caustic way, but I signed too many contracts, or I committed myself to too many deadlines in rapid succession, such that I feel a kind of pressure to deliver, which I imposed upon myself. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I get.
Come
I
on
get
now.
you. I get you. Yeah. I'm there.
So I finished one. I finished another. I'm working on the third one now, but I'm also kind of just feeling tender. Just kind of feeling exhausted.
Yeah.
Mildly overwhelmed, but like not inordinately so. I've
Yeah.
been more overwhelmed in my life.
You're allowed to be exhausted and overwhelmed.
Thank you.
You're
I am
welcome.
almost always.
As a fellow choleric, I give you permission.
Thank you.
I give you permission to not meet a deadline.
Yeah. Well, I don't.
Father Gregory's therapy session.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's like I think part of what goes on is that I feel very keenly that like I want to operate personally insofar as I can rather than virtually. So I like, you have these things on the internet, you have this kind of virtual agora, and people are coming to this virtual agora, encountering the Lord Jesus, maybe, taking first steps in faith or maturing in their kind of Christian formation, all of which is awesome.
Yeah.
But I think that like every meaningful encounter has to terminate in a sacramental life, And so I'm thinking about just like doing little things locally, scaling them globally, and then sending them back locally. And I think part of what's like part of what introduces tension into my life is that I'm just experiencing my limitations in a new way because like I do value these local things, like doing things in person to the extent that you can do things in person.
Like your podcast, what we're doing right now. Kind of thing?
Like this, for instance, Pour Ejemplo. But also just like, just giving talks, retreats, conferences, things like that. You can only do a limited set of them. Totally. And I also find that like each time I go to a place, I meet really cool people with whom you can make really cool connections, and who, in a certain sense, kind of have a claim to you now, and in a certain sense, you have a claim to them. But like, it's like, ooh, you got my heart, I've got yours, and I think that
I do the same when I travel, and then I leave my heart there, and I'm like,
there
now it's
go.
in Ohio. Dang
Right.
it, I can't live there.
I left my heart this past week in Mexico City. But like then so I'm convinced that I find writing books really difficult, like really difficult. I think a lot of people find them pretty darn difficult, but I also get the impression that other people like writing more than I do.
Interesting.
But part of my commitment to that is it strikes me as a medium within which, or according to which, you can encounter people more personally, because I think that the written word is a word for which you've suffered, and I think it bears that,
Yeah.
Whereas I think that the word like spoken into a camera, it's not that it's cheap, it's just that it's transient, or ephemeral, or that it's just evident. I'm going to keep using thesaurus
Interesting.
words.
Yeah.
So like I'm committed to that insofar as like to bleed for the written word is in a certain sense to bleed for the people whom you love, who you can then meet in the context of a sacramental encounter. But I also have to like ask the question, and this is the kind of question that I'm asking right now, like what actually fits within the current confines of my life? Like according to the limitations which are set for me by nature, who am I and what am I for? And I think I'm just experiencing some deadline-driven, exhausted, overwhelmed, growing pains.
Knowing that you're a melancholic and that you have this idealism and that you place a very high value on the written word as opposed to, being on camera. I wonder if it would be helpful, just helpful to think like, you know what, I'm gonna use what I can do on camera in the context of writing. I mean, so the opinion that I have to suffer for the written word, that's an opinion. Mm-hmm. You can also suffer for what you say on camera, right? Like videos you make. I don't know. I put more blood, sweat, and tears into my videos than I do into my writing, because writing just flows out of me. Videos is like the editing is so much work, and then also like getting all the angles and the camera and the lighting right, and I was like, that's like painful to me, and the uploading and the stupid technology that doesn't want to work. Whereas writing to me is like easier because the words are already in there, and as I'm doing the dishes, getting dinner for my family, I'm like, oh, like I have it all written in my mind, then I just sit down and it comes out. So that is that's just another perspective, but like I wonder if it'd be helpful to just apply. Like, I don't need to suffer for this word. I don't need to suffer for these words. I just need to meet this deadline as best I can and do the best I can. Mm-hmm. Does that help you?
It could, but
you're a melancholic. You're not going to give up that easy, are you?
Well, it's just like
you're an idealist.
When I say like I want to suffer through these words, like that's the gift that I can give to the people of God. Otherwise, I fear that the word becomes transactional, almost commercial.
Why do you have to suffer though for it to be
because I think that's
worthy?
Because I think that's how human beings show each other that they love each other.
Interesting. Well,
because I think that's the standard that's set for us by the Lord.
Okay, that's true.
So like it doesn't have to be a grave suffering. Like I meet you and then I like put a nail through my hand or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it's like,
well, does the suffering then make the words more true? Because it's like
I don't think it changes their veridicality, but I think it changes the way in which you commend them to another. So like God loves us regardless of whether or not he goes to the cross for us.
Yeah, right.
Irrespective. Right. But his going to the cross for us is the best way in which to communicate that. Yeah. Because it shows everything, And so I think that like part of the beauty of the written word is that, yeah, it's just, like Ernest Hemingway says, that writing is just pain. It's just pain until such time as the beauty breaks through.
And you're a better writer than I am, so this is probably why you experience more suffering. I'm like, what are you talking about? Writing's easy. And it's like, oh, this is why I'm not a 3-time author or whatever. How many books do you have now?
I have some number, 3, maybe?
Some number.
4. Yeah.
Great. Some given number. Yeah.
Any given number, yeah.
Well, but that's beautiful. That's a beautiful ideal to have. And yeah, I commend you for it, for continuing at the writing.
Well, I wonder if like all ideals are ideals to be in a certain sense like capitulated before or compromised on as you come to a recognition of the fact that like your tummy's rumbling and your body's broken and you haven't had a good night's sleep in like 3 months. Or if like there's something even in the allure of the ideal, even in recognizing that it is somehow laid up in the heavens or far off from your daily experience, that continues to animate a response, which is thereby more genuine, or that's like thereby more full.
Yeah. I only have one experience writing a book, but I can say that as I was writing the first draft, I actually wanted to do a reel on Instagram about this, but I'm so bad at Instagram. Executing my ideas on social media is really hard for me. But I wanted to make a reel of like writing my first draft of my book and being like, it's just going to be right up there next to like Dr. Scott Hahn, Teresa of Avila, Ignatius of Loyola, like Stacey Sumereau, like bam, 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 right on the shelf, and then just be like, receiving the feedback and then going back and reading the second draft and being like, I can't publish this. This is terrible. Exactly. What did I write? I thought this was great. That if I use big fancy words, it would be so great. And then it's like the second edit is like, take out the fancy words. Nobody talks like that. This is killing the conversational vibe and like sacrificing that pride.
You can just make the fancy words your brand. And then the editor will always let you keep them in.
Yes. Using words like scintillating and elucidate. Yes.
I'm a big fan of 19th century bridge words like hithertofore.
Yes.
But okay.
What do you think about this? Actually, I was thinking about an edit to the English language, and this was come up with by my first 2 children are Irish twins, which means they're less than a year apart. Yeah. And when they were learning to speak, they both learned at the same time, and they didn't understand that you're supposed to say each other, so they said your chother and their chother and our chother.
No way.
And it was so cute. I couldn't tell them. And it wasn't until they actually started going to school and then they came home, they're like, Mom. And I was saying your chother to them.
Yes.
They were in first grade. And I was like, they're like, Mom, it's each other. It's not your chother. And I was like, you figured it out. But I feel like your brand, you could introduce that.
I could deploy that. Every once in a while I use a silly compound word. Jared Commutis once introduced me to the word toughicolt.
Ooh.
So things like that also.
Difficult, tough. Oh, exactly. I used to do that all the time. Woosion, word fusion.
Nice.
Saves you a few syllables, but then you lose all the syllables because you have to explain to people what you're doing.
Exactly.
And so it really
But then it becomes a conversation starter.
It's like clipping coupons and then driving up the road to like go to different stores to get something 10 cents cheaper at the other store because you have a coupon, but you waste all the gas and money anyway.
Well, you meet the people. It's about the people.
It's about the journey.
Exactly. Okay, so we'll take this as an opportunity to introduce this episode. My name is Father Gregory Pine. Welcome to Godsplaining. Thanks to all those who support us. If you enjoy the show, please consider making a monthly donation on Patreon. Be sure to like and subscribe to Godsplaining wherever you listen to your podcasts. So by this point in the episode, you'd already been introduced to, what do we call that, mindset coaching?
Yeah.
Mindset coaching.
Yeah.
As a way by which to approach the mystery that is human life. But we're not just here for mindset coaching, or if we are just here for mindset coaching, it's mindset coaching of a broader sort than just a kind of deep, dark dive into the hollow caverns of Father Gregory's soul. Because as we made mention at an earlier point in the conversation, which up until the present we have not yet introduced, Stacey Sumereau is here.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing well. a little warm, but that's okay. I have my
Exactly.
heater.
Right.
You know?
You made mention of the aforementioned radiant heat source. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, radiant heat source within. Yes. This is a little boy.
Nice. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Thank
and
you
you
very
said
much.
that's baby number 5?
Baby number 5.
Okay.
And a lot of pressure for the name Gabriel because we have a Raphael and a Michael.
Okay.
So this is our third boy. So they've kind of already decided. And
But
I'm
you
like,
could also do Donatello.
I could do Donatello. That'd be really cool.
He's got a bow staff.
Don's a cool name.
Yeah, he made
Yeah.
purple cool back in 1993.
He did. Yeah, actually, my oldest, I didn't realize when I named my oldest Raphael that, and we did the PH spelling, like the, not the F. So I didn't realize that Ninja Turtles were back. And so he would get a lot of
never
respect.
left.
They've never, okay, so yeah,
Yeah.
I guess that's just me being
Various
like,
iterations.
yeah. So I didn't realize that. And then all of these older boys were like respecting my 1-year-old son. They're like, his name's Raphael.
Exactly. He's
yeah.
one of the cooler ones.
Yeah, and he walked at 6 months old. So he kind of got that
Wow.
whole he got that vibe like from birth.
Yeah, what did Raphael have? So Leonardo, I think, had the katana.
Had the 2.
What are these things called?
So we actually have them at home. My husband was like given them. And
Yeah?
I was like, where did you get these?
Yeah.
I think they're called Sai, like S-I-A.
Wow.
That's what our things are called. But I
Cool.
don't know if that's the name of the weapon that Raphael had.
No,
which
that's
I should know.
That's enough for me. I don't know that I would recognize the word otherwise.
I have to go
Yeah, because
home
then
and-
Michelangelo had nunchucks and
Yeah.
Donatello had a bow staff.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is boss.
Donatello.
Yeah.
That's a good, yeah. And I'm like, what about our parish priest is like Polycarp?
Nice.
And I was like,
People say these
Nickname
things,
Polly?
but they don't mean these things.
yeah. We had a seminarian who was like, we got to bring back urban.
No, I wouldn't do that.
I was like, that's edgy. That's
That
edgy.
is edgy, but your child will get beaten up. You don't want to do that to him. Yeah, I don't have any concrete recommendations.
Yeah.
You are free. The sons and daughters
Gosh,
are
thank
free.
you. I thought you were
support
going
in
to
your
pressure
choice.
me for Dominic,
No.
But okay, bless you. Thank you.
There are a lot of people who choose Dominic.
Dominic's
Yeah.
a great name.
I'm a big man for appealing to freedom, because like
I'm here for it.
every once in a while like people pressure you into a decision, but like I really love not just in the kind of secular sense in which folks say you be you and do whatever you want and I'll support
Mm-hmm.
you in it because I actually have no standards and I'm afraid to distinguish between things that are good and things that are bad.
Truly.
But in the sense of like no, like I as your friend, not just like give you permission, but like I'm going to train my energies on supporting you because I think that you're going to make a cool decision. I'm not talking about your baby's name anymore. I'm talking about this in more general.
I love that. Actually, this is a great segue into discernment because I think the Lord often gives us more freedom than we actually want to
Yes.
take and want to have.
Estoy de acuerdo.
Wait.
That's Spanish for I am of accord.
Okay, perfect. Oh, okay. Love that.
Yeah.
And I think he trusts us more than we trust ourselves
Okay.
in decision making a lot of times.
Let's introduce the book.
Yeah, let's
And
do
then
it.
we can dovetail into some
Should I-
discernment
should
action.
I
Yeah, hold it up.
Hold it up.
Maybe pivot, swivel pivot, swibbit. Yeah, let's go. Okay, cool. So the name of the book is
Awaits.
Adventure Awaits.
How to interpret your desires and hear God's voice.
Okay.
Yeah, big topic.
What prompted you to write this book?
So how far back shall we go?
Do you have like a little heater that was saying like I'm throwing off heat? You can direct that either to writing books or you can direct that to warming a developing country.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what inspired this book.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
No, I would say actually it started probably way back in 2014.
Wow.
So I was very afraid to hear the Lord's voice. I was very afraid to know what God wanted for my life. I was a cradle Catholic, never asked him like, what do you actually want me to do? It was more like my prayer life would be like, okay, Lord, I really want this thing. Please give it to me. And if it's not your will, please change your will.
Wow.
That was
nice.
the subtext. I didn't even realize it.
I don't ask the Lord for things. That's another part of my life that I haven't yet revealed.
Oh, interesting.
I
You
just
don't
tell him
ask-
he's cool.
And then what does he say?
I don't know.
Do you hear God speak?
Not really.
Okay, let's talk about that.
No. You
No,
keep
no,
going.
no,
Keep
no.
going. Later.
Let's talk about the concept of hearing God speak because I
Yeah.
love talking about that. So I was a lifelong Catholic, one of 8 kids. I thought my heavenly crown was on my bedside table and I was like just a shoo-in for heaven. But I didn't really get this whole discernment thing that actually requires like surrender to the Lord. Like, not my will, but yours be done kind of thing. Or how that even interacts. Like, where is my will in the big scheme of things and God's will? Like, how does that all fit together? And I kind of just assumed, I don't know where I picked this up, but I kind of assumed that like God's will and my will are inherently opposite. Maybe because of the stories of martyrs and, you see Jesus on the cross and you hear offer it up, carry your cross. And I'm like, okay, the life of a Christian is nothing but suffering. So I never even really asked God, like, what do you want for my life? And when I was 15, I decided I wanted to be on Broadway. So I devoted lots and lots of time to dance classes, voice lessons,
Okay.
every show I could be a part of,
How
I
did
was a
that
part
go?
of. It was fun. And
Okay.
it came with a lot. It came with an eating disorder, and it came with a lot of self-critical thoughts too. So
Okay.
a lot of judgment and so much weight placed and pressure on these auditions. But at the same time, I love going after my dreams. And I actually think that was probably I would have been better to introduce the Lord into the conversation, honestly, of course. But I think just taking action, like I wasn't just paralyzed in inaction, like this dream is over here, but I'm not going to take any action on it. I pursued it as hard as I could. And I did well. I mean, I went to Catholic University right across the street for musical theater. And then I moved to New York. And the week after I graduated, I booked the Wizard of Oz national tour.
Wow.
So I was a Munchkin.
Get out.
I know. You didn't know you were interviewing the mayoress of Munchkinland, did you?
That's awesome.
Isn't that?
No, that's like really cool.
Listen,
I'm
thank
here
you.
for it. Yeah.
It was wild. I had this like wig, so I looked like Martha Washington. It was like this big white wig. I don't know. We had these shoes with like curly toes.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, it was fun. I was Glinda's understudy as well.
No way.
Yeah, and a poppy.
What's a poppy?
Like when the Wicked Witch sends
I don't know that I've ever actually seen The Wizard of Oz since I was like 7. It was in our
Okay.
third home.
I was going to encourage you to go to confession if you have never seen it
I
before.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
I told my mom that I hadn't seen The Sound of Music right before I entered religious life, and she's like, "Bro, you got to watch that." My mom didn't talk like that, but we watched it the night before I entered, and I was like,
Oh.
"Dude, this is about a gal that leaves religious life. Like, what
so
are we
good.
doing?" You know?
It's so good. I tell you, you were sharing that you cry a lot. I watch Sound of Music now and I cry. I'm like, oh man, Julie Andrews, she was so in it. Like I was like, I see her heart. Oh, it was beautiful.
Yeah, and you're going for 7 kids, so you can line them up.
Oh, I don't know. I have really rough pregnancies. I don't like being sick for 9 months. Oh man,
Hey.
I'm okay. I'm in a honeymoon phase right now. This is my 3 months of being
Yep.
like
Third
80%
trimester?
back.
Nice.
No, second trimester.
Fascinating.
Second
And
is
then
the
it
best.
gets brutal.
It gets so bad. It's like
Third is
having
the
like
one with,
mono.
Okay.
It's like you're so tired all the time.
I didn't realize the pregnancy was as devastating as it is until like my sisters got pregnant. It's like some people it's before, like the child comes. Some people it's after the child comes, like the
Yeah.
primary
No, it's
devastation
both.
station. Yeah, it's just
Both.
like
I would
Yeah.
take postpartum though over newborn. Sorry, I just said the same thing.
It's
I would
all
take postpartum /
Over?
newborn over pregnancy.
okay.
Pregnancy, the first trimester is like being
Chewed up and spit out and boot off stage, quote
yeah.
Eminem.
It's like exactly. It's like having motion sickness for 3 months straight.
Yeah.
And also your body temperature fluctuating and just feeling like
Yes.
never happy, never at home in your body, and you go to bed at 7:00 every night.
That's
so I don't talk to my husband for 3 months.
Fascinating. Okay.
Wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me. But not everybody's like that. So I always see these women who are like, I love being pregnant. I'm like, I love that for you.
Nice.
But I'm really real because I'm like, this is way harder than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
And I spent my first couple pregnancies being like, why am I like so deficient that I don't love this? And I'm
You
like,
ever think about just booking a 3-month trip to Cozumel for your first trimester next time?
See, that's kind of the crazy thing about family life. Like you can't, how?
You just ask somebody to take care of your kids for 3 months. Fairly straightforward.
I mean, really straightforward. I've never thought of that, Father Gregory. Here I am, the mindset coach.
Exactly.
And I've never thought about this solution to my
Cozumel.
problem.
Yeah.
Cozumel. That sounds
I haven't been to
great.
Cozumel, but I hear it's great.
I actually don't think I would enjoy it though, because I would just be sleeping all the time. But I would
sti-
enjoy that.
I mean, if you
aspect
had
of
no
it.
expectations as to your
Yeah.
enjoyment,
Yeah.
then like to sleep all the time would be great.
That would actually be great.
Also, it's like if you eat something that causes you some gastric distress, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
might just kind of mix in with the general sentiment. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like we're here anyway.
Exactly.
Let's just keep going.
And you, like if it's an all-inclusive resort, you can just get endless virgin strawberry daiquiris.
that sounds nice. Actually.
Divine.
Yeah.
Okay, problem solved.
As long as it's one of those places where they bring you exactly what you want to eat immediately.
Exactly.
Because then
all
that's
of your
the
needs
dream.
must be tended to.
Exactly.
in
Within
all of their
5
exactitude.
seconds.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you can name that 6th child Gregory. Just kidding.
I will. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Gregory the first, Gregory the second. Yeah.
Thank you. And then you can help pay for these 3-month vacations and all the childcare that goes along with it.
Honestly,
right?
I'm
Your
here
order.
for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
okay,
I got
perfect.
points.
You're
I'm
pro-life,
flying.
right?
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
totally
You're-
pro-life.
you've
I've got
got
points.
points.
I've got American Airline, blah, 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 and thus and such. Dude, I was flying
and
to,
such.
where was I flying to? To Syracuse the other day, but
yeah.
I thought I was flying to Rochester. I showed up at the airport not knowing where I was going, which just gives some indication as to the current shape of my life.
Yes, I used to do that on tour.
That's awesome.
I would go in because I was living in hotels. I'd go in a hotel and I'd be like, and the room keys don't have your room number on them.
Right.
And so I'd go in and I have my key and I'd be like, I don't remember. And I have to go get in line at the front desk and wait behind all the people who are checking and be like, can you tell me my room number? It was very disorienting.
Yeah.
But
then you just started getting tattoos of your room number each time.
Well, no, because then I would have been covered
Right.
and I still wouldn't have, where was yesterday's?
Right. Yes. Okay, so I thought I was flying to Rochester. I was, in fact, flying to Syracuse, but the flight to Syracuse was overbooked by one person. And I was like, here's the thing. The place where I'm going is in between Rochester and Syracuse. So if you want to bump me onto that flight, which flies like 10 minutes later, which I thought that I was going to take, you should feel most welcome to do so. And the lady was like, thanks. I was like, you're welcome. And then she came over to me and she gave me my noon ticket and she's like, and here's a voucher. I was like,
did you get the $500 or whatever?
I got like $625.
Oh my gosh.
So you're halfway to
So-
Cozumel. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is really, I'm so glad that I drove here.
I've been trying to give this thing away for like days now. So
Thank you. This is great. So then were they able to send somebody to pick you up when you got?
I had my
you were
little
able
Avis
to-
app. I just changed
okay.
my rental from one place to another. I drove along Lake Cayuga. It was exotic.
Yeah.
It was very
Cayuga's
pleasant.
beautiful.
It is.
I used to live up there for
Wow.
a minute. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
2 years, I guess. Yeah.
That's not nothing. Okay, keep
That's
going.
true. So I was on tour.
You're on tour?
I was kind of at the
Munchkin, Glenda understudy.
Yeah, I was living the dream.
Yep.
And then I went to New York for a year and a half, kept plugging away, working as hard as I could, booked another national tour,
That's
which
incredible.
was Beauty and the Beast.
No way.
Yeah. When was the last time you watched that one? Were you 7?
Live action right when it came out,
Yes.
but the cartoon, like 1991 when it came out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
been a while. That's
Yeah.
the first time I saw my
But
dad
you
cry.
do remember Mrs. Potts, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I was her understudy and the wardrobe.
Yeah, so
was
she
fun.
sings like one of the most iconic Disney songs of all time.
Yeah.
Which apparently Angela Lansbury wasn't going to sing. It was going to be somebody else was going to be
Really?
cast for that role because her voice was, she was kind of getting
Tale as
older.
old as time.
And it's kind of getting tremulous at that point, but they're like, send the old woman vibrato. And then it ended up being a classic.
Yeah. You can't replace her. You
No,
cannot.
you can't.
No.
And I've been trying to perfect my old woman vibrato ever since.
It was challenging to step into that and be like, okay, here's 2,000 people tonight who
Yep.
expect me to be Angela
Angela
Lansbury, and I'm
yeah.
23.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think the way to play that is just be,
Well, just
to
do
be
the Anne Hathaway.
genuine.
Just do your
Yeah.
own Fontaine.
yeah, exactly. Just live your own life. Whatever.
Exactly. You
Be
said be
your own
genuine.
self in that role. Yeah,
Yeah, amen.
And I actually really love the role of Mrs. Potts. This is kind of an aside, but she's the way it was explained to me, and this is why I think I booked the role, was because I actually fell in love with Mrs. Potts because she's watching the Beast and all of the household objects lose their humanity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then as the Beast falls in love with Belle, he's rediscovering his humanity. He's becoming more human. And so she's observing and she's teaching her son about love, even as their humanity's being taken away from them, and they're becoming household objects. But she's singing about the beauty of love and watching the Beast, who's really a man who she really cares about, kind of become more and more human. I just think I just thought that was so beautiful.
Yeah.
So,
And Chip is precious. Chip is a very precious character. He's easy to love.
we had some cute little kids who came along on tour with us, and
That's awesome.
I don't know how they did it. I
They
don't
get
know.
homeschooled?
Yeah, their mom or dad came.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wild.
One was an only child, so he could just travel with both parents or one parent at a time. And the other one did have siblings. And so they kind of had to split up the family for a while. It was interesting. Yeah, but they made the sacrifice. I don't think I would be able to do that, but that's different choices.
Cozumel.
Yeah, I'll just go by myself.
Bingo.
I'm like, you're not coming with me, kids. This is great. So it was on that second tour I really started to feel this thing I call the worm of discontent. That is a term I made up. You won't read that anywhere else. But it was really kind of a little whisper in the moments when I was trying to fall asleep, when I wasn't doing anything else. Just like, yeah, this isn't it. This is, you're doing the thing that you wanted to do and it's not fulfilling. This is really, and it was massively disappointing and disorienting to feel that because I think especially in your 20s, you feel this urgency, like I can't waste time. Everybody else knows what they're doing, and I'm the only one who doesn't. If I change course, it means that this whole career would have been a waste. So that I was thinking all those things, feeling all those things. But this voice didn't go away, and the way that I look at it now is kind of like we have layers of desire. And this was like me. I thought, okay, comfort is the outer layer. Underneath that is purpose. I thought my purpose was theater. So I'm living my purpose as hard as I can. But then there's a deeper layer underneath that. And that's really my true purpose, really my mission. And that was kind of knocking on my heart like, hey, this isn't really what is this for? What is this theater thing for? Who are you? You're gratifying yourself, kind of, but it's actually not that fun because you're living in hotels and you never get to see your family, and you're on the road for 11 months straight. So, so I came back to New York, lost my passion for theater because I knew where each of these shows was going to lead. I still love singing, of course, I always will, but I just couldn't find it in me to continue to audition. So I started going to daily mass, and I didn't know where that was leading me, and I was like, oh,
in New York.
Yeah.
What church?
I would go wherever there was a daily. There's like a church on every street corner.
Yeah.
So,
but what neighborhood were you? I mean, set the scene. A lot of New Yorkers listen to the podcast.
Well, at the time I was in Queens.
Okay.
Let me think here. Where did I go to daily mass? Oh, wait a minute. I was bouncing around. I went somewhere in Brooklyn. I don't even remember the name of the church now. I was living in Brooklyn for like a month with friends because that's what you do in New York when I was like a couch surfer for a little while I was looking for a lease. Sometimes I would go, St. Vincent Fair is beautiful. I would go up there sometimes.
Nice.
I'd go, there was one, actually, I think I found out since, I don't know, liturgically how, it was fine. It was like St. Francis on 33rd Street.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that one?
Where the Friars that hear confessions all the time? Yeah. Just right outside of Penn Station.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard
it's like St. Francis, St. Anthony of Padua. Something
like that.
Name, yeah.
They have a mass like every half hour.
Nice.
So I would just find a church and just go to daily mass. And then eventually it got to the point where I was still working as a waitress, because that's what you do. And I have no answers. Then my mom gives me this book called The Ear of the Heart by Mother Dolores Hart, who was an actress in the 50s. She was Elvis's first on-screen kiss. So she was a big deal, way bigger deal than I was in the world of film. She was huge.
Yeah.
And then she left to become a cloistered Dominican. So anyway, I impulsively drove up to Connecticut to see her. And things kept transpiring. And I got a friend of mine who was in Los Angeles was like, hey, do you want to, submit for this reality TV show? Just like write them an email. And I was like, what? Or it was like a film project that they were looking for Catholic young women for. So all these things keep transpiring over the course of months. And eventually it gets to the point where I realized after I talked to Mother Dolores, I need to discern religious life, which is not what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And then I got invited to be on a reality TV show about it. Cute. Called The Sisterhood Becoming Nuns.
Get out.
And I had to discern whether I was going to discern on reality TV.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Did you?
I did. Wow. I did. And you know what the funny thing is, Father Gregory? I had knocked on doors. I had, pounded the pavement for my theater career. Never wanted to be on film.
Yeah.
This was literally, I'd never even left my house. I just wrote them an email. They interviewed me on the phone.
Do you still have that email?
Probably somewhere.
Nice. Yeah.
I must. It must be back in there somewhere.
That'd be nice to look back on.
Yeah. It's just why it was non-specific. So, and this is why my book is called Adventure Awaits, right? You never know where things are going to lead. Mm-hmm. But it was actually, and God works in interesting ways because I'm on this reality TV show and I've signed a contract to stay in these convents for 6 weeks. Meanwhile, there's nothing I want more than to get out of this contract because I was actually having to face this desire to only do what I wanted to do. And I had this massive aversion to surrendering to the Lord. Mm-hmm. And this priest had given me in confession a prayer of surrender that he asked me to pray every day. And I prayed it. I was obedient, but I hated it. I absolutely hated it. And so what's so funny is, I had this contract to stay in the convent and we're doing holy hours off camera. This is not like, everybody asks if it was a real experience. It's like, well, when you watch the show, a lot of that stuff was made for TV. But we did do a holy hour. We had mass every day with the sisters. And if I hadn't had that 6-week contract, I don't know if I would have stayed if it was just me visiting, because I probably would have left and escaped
What
these
network
questions.
syndicated this?
Lifetime.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Have they
it
done
went
it
around
since?
the world.
No way.
It was on YouTube for a while.
Get
it was
out.
on YouTube. I think they pulled it from YouTube, but you can maybe
Why?
find it on like Hulu, Netflix. They kind of just move things around.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lifetime on Netflix.
Lifetime.
The Sisterhood of the Traveling what?
Close. The Sisterhood Becoming Nuns. The Sisterhood, Becoming Nuns.
Got it.
Yeah. So that was in 2014.
Fascinating.
It was. And it was a real experience for me because by the end of it, I actually thought I was going to join the convent, genuinely.
Wow.
And
Which one? This one?
The Daughters of St. Mary of Providence.
Fascinating.
Mm-hmm. They are in Chicago, but they're a worldwide order.
Wild.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And so what happened off camera on that show, during the filming of that show, it was not on camera. It was in one of these holy hours where I was praying this prayer of surrender. I'd never heard God speak to me before.
Yeah.
Didn't want to, because I thought if I showed him my heart, my desires, he'd be like, oh, thanks, I'll take that. That's mine. But what he actually appeared to me after communion. And
I'm sorry, you just said that like it was a normal thing.
Well, it kind of is sometimes in different phases of my life, yes. But it was not a normal thing at the time. I was shocked.
Okay.
Shocked.
Okay.
This never happened to me before.
Yeah.
And
no,
Jesus
I mean,
is
it hasn't
there.
happened to like anybody ever, except for the people for whom it has happened.
That's so interesting.
Yeah,
So
no,
I think
rare
it happens
experience.
a lot more. You think it's rare?
Oh, I think it's rare.
Interesting.
I mean,
Okay.
depending on what you mean by appeared to me.
Right. So very like Ignatian style, kind of like the Lord is in my imagination. Like I imagine,
Okay.
I imagine.
I'm not against you. I'm not
but,
judging you.
Yeah. But then he takes control of my imagination at a certain point. So it's like I'm not making this happen anymore. He's actually appearing to me, and he's manipulating whatever's happening in this vision. It's not me.
Okay.
I'm not in control.
Okay.
I'm just watching. And he's handing me his heart.
Mm.
And he's like, "Will you take it?" And I was like, "Oh." And I like took his heart, and I was like, "Well, thank you." And then I'm like, "Well, what do you do with it? What do I do with it?" And he said, "Well, take out your heart and put mine where yours used to be."
Fascinating.
And so in this vision, I could like take out my heart and put his where mine used to be.
You know that this happened to other people before, right?
So I found that out since.
Okay.
And then of course there's creating me a clean heart, O God, and a steadfast spirit renew within me,
There
right?
you go, yeah.
You know, and so there's all these things. I actually found out who's the saint.
St. Catherine of Siena.
I just found out last year that this actually happened to her too, and I was like, what?
Mystical exchange of hearts. It's a thing.
Yes. Yeah. And so I'm looking
She had
at
a
my
mystical
heart.
espousal too. She had a lot of mystical action going on when she was like 6 and 9. It's like nuts.
Wow.
In the good sense of nuts.
That's great.
Don't get me wrong. Just from the
I was
Mid-Atlantic.
26, so or 25. So it took me
Nice.
a much longer time to get there.
No. Let's
But
not
this-
compare.
Yeah,
Let's just
right.
appreciate.
The Lord's timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm looking at my heart, and it's like I am very ashamed to see that it's like gray, hard, stony, like not the way a
Okay.
beating functional human heart should look. And it's like I'm like, okay, well that's true. You know, like this is the heart that I've been so selfishly keeping to myself and not allowing it to actually like I'm seeing it for the first time as it really is. And I'm holding my heart and I'm like, well, what should I do with this? And then Jesus is like, can I have it, please? And I was like, I'm sorry, you want this? And he was like, yes, I do. And I gave it to him, and he put my heart where his used to be. And then, so that changed everything. You know, then I was like, okay, that's my call to religious life.
Mm-hmm.
And it changed everything. I was like, I'm so happy now. I'm so happy to give my life to the Lord. It was like a 180 degree, which I understand is not the usual necessarily.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't realize how unusual it is simply because,
Very unusual.
okay.
I affirm you in your unusualness, but
Okay.
you need to know that this is somewhat extraordinary.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So I've started talking about it a lot because the Lord actually gives me all kinds of like that was like the first time. That was like the big thing.
Okay.
But the Lord actually, I see him a lot
Fascinating.
in my prayer.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll tell you, well, yeah. Do you want me to go into that kind of like
Sure.
imaginative prayer?
Yeah.
Because I actually think I interviewed Dan Burke. You know, he was the head of EWTN for a while, I think. And he has the Avila Institute, and he teaches courses on prayer. And I interviewed him, and I said, how many Catholics like do you think have these kinds of experiences? And he thought 50%.
Wow. Really?
That's what he said.
What do we count when we
Now-
say Catholics? What do we mean by
Right.
that?
Well, okay. So these are people who are coming to the Avila Institute for a course on prayer, right?
Ye-
So it's
okay.
like this is a subset. This is
Okay.
like people who are
Yeah.
who are
still,
seeking the Lord.
I don't-
But I was shocked. I thought
That's-
50%.
I might say like 3%.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I think most people go to prayer and they sit down and they're like, okay, what happens? And then they stand up
Yeah.
and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how I was for most of my life. But you know what?
That's how I am for all of my
It's
life.
interesting. Well, so when St. Joan of Arc was on, maybe you've read this before, when she was being tried for heresy, and they were asking her about her visions, and they said, well, it sounds like God was just in your imagination. And she was like, well, of course he was. How else would God speak to me?
Fascinating.
Right? Yeah. Have you ever heard that before? That
No.
quote? Yeah. So I feel like the imagination, I think the imagination is a massively underutilized prayer tool. Like if you look at St. Ignatius with the colloquy, I'm sure you've read the spiritual exercises, and he says, imagine yourself at the foot of the cross, have a conversation with Jesus as one friend to another, and ask, what have I done for Christ? What am I doing for Christ? What should I do for Christ? It's like, it's just your imagination. You're just entering into the scene. And that's all the spiritual exercises anyway, is like you put yourself in the scene, right? That's how you start to align your mind and your heart with the truth of Christ. And I assume, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I assume that St. Ignatius was writing that so that the Lord would actually show you something in those imaginations. Like it's not just you pretending, right? But it's actually a way to engage with the divine so that he can actually influence that. Yeah. What do you think about that?
I think many things.
Okay.
So I would say that's like a characteristically modern or contemporary kind of spirituality. That's not to say that it's bad.
Okay.
I'm not saying that in any way, shape, or form.
Gotcha.
I would say that like a more characteristically ancient or medieval form of spirituality tends to rely less on certain aspects of the imagination.
Okay.
It tends to be more verbal. That is to say, like more word and concept driven.
Okay.
So it'd be like meditating upon certain truths of the faith, but
Okay.
many of which are invisible, you know, like God's nature, God's activity, things like that. So I think that like a kind of classic expression of this would be the Cistercian tradition.
Okay.
In part, it's influenced by their architecture or by like the art proper to the time of their flourishing in like the 12th century. But they tend to build Romanesque churches, which tend to have thick walls, which admit of very little glass, and so tend to be dark. And then the glass tends to be relatively simple. So it's not as much, there's just like not as much appeal by way of image or statuary to the imagination.
Okay.
Whereas there's a kind of conscious effort through Lectio Divina, you know, through meditation on words,
Yeah.
which mediate concepts, which mediate realities, which mediate God, to come to a kind of knowledge and love of God. It's not like it bypasses the imagination, but it relies, I suppose, in a certain sense, less on the imaginative aspects of.
Gotcha. So then when you say it's a more modern concept, do you think it kind of, do you think it brings to fruition perhaps some of these more,
I just think you have
well-established
options.
traditions?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think you have options. Like, I don't think it's just like kind of a cornucopia from which you can pick and choose, but I do think that there is a certain sense of charism at stake.
Oh, sure.
I think that like there's a kind of sweet. So I think that that relies a lot upon the interior resources of the individual to furnish things which at present aren't present.
Yeah. Do you think also it has to do with like your learning style?
It can. Your
Because
learning
I'm
style,
a very
your temperament.
visual person.
Certainly.
Certain people are moved almost exclusively by music when they pray.
Yeah.
And again, the goal is not emotion, right?
No.
The goal's not I want to feel good. So we're not. If the Lord gives you a vision, there's always a temptation. Like it feels like the emotional response from that, and you can start seeking that in your. And I think imaginative prayer, perhaps more than other forms, could perhaps have that temptation and that pitfall. You know, but Saint Teresa of Avila says like, well, don't think that if God speaks to you, or if you hear him or see him, like that you're special necessarily or more loved or whatever. She's like, well, he also spoke to the Pharisees, so just keep that in mind.
Sure.
It's about the fruit of these visual prayer experiences that the Lord gives you, and you don't need them, of course. They're ordinary means of salvation. You do not need these experiences, but it's kind of the way I look at it is it's a gift.
Yeah,
it's a gift, and there's been long seasons in my life where I have not had them, but then there's also seasons where that's what the Lord kind of chooses to give me, and it's usually where there's some kind of emotional healing needed. Yeah, I had nothing when my daughter was in the NICU, and for a long time afterward, prayer was so dry. But then it's kind of like the healing experiences he showed me, like he would like take me through like certain hard days, and he would like show me from his perspective how he saw me in those days. Yeah. Is this something you've ever talked about much? No?
Not really.
Okay.
No, not in the sense that I don't think it's good or I
Yeah.
think it's uninteresting. I think that like the disposition that I have in part because of religious formation is this kind of sense, call it what you want, a certainty or a confidence that if you live the life with the intention of appropriating the life, that the life will impress its logic in your very mind and heart, or in your body too. Is
that in religious life specifically?
Yeah, but I
Okay.
think that it can apply to Christian life more broadly. It's just that like forma vitae or like plan of life, to kind of extend the concept, it's more present in religious life, and it's certainly like it's communicated in a way that's more kind of concrete or actionable. It's just like you show up when the bell rings, things like that.
Yep.
And so I think the idea is that you learn obedience by showing up a prayer when the bell rings, and you learn chastity by observing cloister as it's meant to be observed, and then exercising a certain prudence in relationships and interactions as is called for by the constitutions and ordinations. So like just like simple things like that, it requires less of the individual to kind of produce certain thoughts and feelings, and it requires him, I suppose, like more in the way of care or concern to clue in to the form of life as it has been prescribed so that he can then appropriate it in due course. So there's like the individual is always, as a free person, going to have to engage, going to have to commit.
Yeah.
But I think that there is a slightly different emphasis in terms of trajectory. And I do think it's like one of those instances in which like let 1,000 flowers bloom. In that like different people do different things within the life of the church as part of the building up of its diversity.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have no experience of anything like that. None.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Interesting. And yeah, I was describing kind of some of these visions to a friend of mine, and he was like, well, I'm kind of jealous. Like I've never heard the Lord speak. And I was like, you know what? I appreciate your honesty on that. I said, but like, look at the way you live your life. This is my friend Ben, who's like every other word out of his mouth is Latin. Like he loves the liturgy. He loves the church. Like he is so faithful. I'm like, the Lord may have granted this to me because my faith is weaker than yours, and your faith is actually stronger than mine. And you don't need these kind of experiences, or this just isn't how you learn. This isn't how you, this isn't your learning style or whatever. And it's interesting because when you say charism, I grew up with like a very, very traditional household. We never went to festivals of praise at Steubenville. I had no idea that people spoke in tongues, like the charismatic gifts, being slain in the spirit. I didn't know anything about any of that. That was not a part of my upbringing. So anything that was like touchy-feely, kind of like emotionally driven guitars in church was like, nope, not welcome in the Jackson household. And, because we were also kind of in that, still like that second wave of like post-Vatican II, where like my parents' generation was kind of like reacting against or toward, there was a lot of liturgical upset at the time.
Sure.
And so
You're
my
not going to
parents,
offend anybody. You can just say it's fine.
yeah. Well, some people embraced the guitars, some people went the other direction. My parents went the other direction, and I have such a love of chant and traditional. So I wonder sometimes when I talk about this stuff, people are going to be like, well, you probably went to Steubenville, didn't you? No disrespect for anybody, like everybody I know respects, Franciscan University, but there is a certain charism associated. And so for me, it was like such a big surprise to have that come to me out of this. There was no culture of like these charisms in my life or in my family or anything, any of my spirituality. So it was a huge surprise to me. But I think I've gotten much more comfortable with talking about it. And it's interesting when I bring this up to people, I think it's just fascinating that we have this tradition where we can discern the Lord's voice because we have the writings of the saints. We have spiritual authority through spiritual directors and through so many, the authority the Pope handed down all the way through the succession, right down to like your parish priest. You could go to him and say, hey, I'm hearing the Lord speaking. Whereas the Protestants don't have that. They don't have that tradition of authority or a discernment necessarily of what the Lord is saying to you. And yet at the same time, Catholics in general, like if I ask people like, have you ever heard the Lord speak? Do you know what his voice sounds like? How would you know if God wanted to communicate something to you? Mm-hmm. And the vast majority have like 90% are like, I don't know. I've never thought about that before. And I'm like, well, that's so interesting to me because then like, how is this supposed to be a relationship if there's not some kind of connection, right?
Yeah.
And that can look really different for everybody. That can look so different for everybody. Like your connection is through your life as, and I can't say 100% like how you connect with the Lord, but like there is a strong connection there. It's undeniable. It's real, but it's not the same. It's not the same as mine. And I think a lot of people don't even think about that connection. It's like you said, people sit down and they say, I wonder what I should be thinking about right now. And then they kind of get up and leave. And that's a lot of people's prayer life.
I think that can be completely consistent with a life of faith, hope, and charity. Yeah.
Just sitting down and wondering what to think about?
Yeah.
You mean if the fruits...
Referring that to God.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
yeah, if that's what's on your heart and you're telling the Lord about it and you're like, I believe there's someone listening who's going to then, have an effect on my life in return, and I'm not just talking to a void, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is I think that like even sometimes some of the best Christians, like their very lives are hidden from them to a certain extent.
Okay.
Like I think that their lives, like their prayer lives unfold in a kind of mild bewilderment almost.
Interesting.
Not in that like that registers as whatever, like acute anxiety or terror on every side. But I think that like, no, I think that you're right to distinguish between the experience of prayer and as it were the substance of prayer, or like the experience of Christian life and the substance of Christian life. Because like what counts? Faith, hope, charity, you know? And those are the virtues which bring the other virtues in their wake, but which mediate a relationship with the Most High God, which relationship isn't a feeling and it's not even a thought, to be honest, right? It's a connection which is forged by these theological virtues, which endures unto ages of ages, and which eventuates in a certain kind of life. You know, it may look this way, it may look that way. It's not going to observe a certain script or fall like kind of narrowly within the bounds of a certain shape. But nevertheless, it's to be kind of understood, broadly conceived, as the fruit of a theological life. And so I think that like when I say a person can sit down and be like, I wonder what this is about, that it doesn't mean that the person like goes in and then is like looking around from this corner to that corner of the church for however many minutes in a sense of like kind of feckless or fretful. But I think that if you can be certain and confident in the presence of the Lord, even cognizant of the fact that you don't really know what's going on,
Yes.
I think that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's like more than okay. So I guess what I want to communicate in part, you know, to the people of God is to say that sometimes like the efficacy of your Christian life is hidden from you for God's own mysterious purposes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's not about seeking sensationalism. It's not about just gratifying. Like that's kind of treating God like a slot machine, right? Where you go in and it's like, oh, I'm going to leave with my feelings gratified.
Yeah.
Like that's not actually, you know, if I were to marry my husband and expect him to just gratify my feelings every day, that's not a good marriage, is it? Because that's not an honest relationship. That's really using him rather than loving him. And so So I'm not disagreeing with you at all either in any sense. And you're the priest. So like,
No.
you've had a lot more formation than I have.
No, but I think that we're in a good spot then to talk about like hearing the voice of God, and you situated in terms of hierarchy already to this point. I'm thinking in terms of like faith, sacraments, governance more broadly.
Okay.
But like hearing the voice of God as it transpires within the setting of ecclesial life. You know, like we hear the voice of God in the liturgy.
Oh, absolutely.
We hear the voice of God in the sacred scriptures.
Absolutely.
We hear the voice of God just like in showing up for our Christian duties as is dictated by state of life.
Sacrament of the present moment.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's actually, so there's different ways in the book, and I kind of devote each chapter to like a different way to hear God speak. And the first one is about scripture, because that's accessible to each one of us. And then, you know, the liturgical life and the sacramental life, we all have access to that. And scripture was really the first introduction for me. I started reading scripture when I was on the Wizard of Oz tour, and a fellow Munchkin actually introduced me. She was like a Catholic who read the Bible, and I'd like never met one of those. I know that sounds wild.
That's awesome.
Isn't that? I was like, I memorized the catechism. I'm good, you know. But she like would take.
That's also not normal.
Well, I didn't memorize like I'm talking like St. Joseph Baltimore Catechism.
Still not normal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Just
my mom. You know. My mom did a good job catechizing.
Yeah, she crushed it.
She did.
Yeah.
She did. But like as far as like the Lord actually cares about me, that was a concept that like, you know, or I can have access to like a deeper life of faith by coming to the Lord's word and reading it as a book of promises and a love letter to me, and you know, something that's far, far beyond me that I can absorb and learn from. I mean, this sounds so stupid to say I'd never thought of it that way, but it was kind of like, well, I go to mass, check the box, you know, I hear scripture at mass, but to actually take upon myself the learning of actually reading it daily, of course, with, you know, other lives of the saints, and there's so many other spiritual classics as well. That was something that I just never did, you know, but kind of like we started off with this episode with the whole mindset coaching thing, like learning to distinguish like what thoughts actually come from the Lord and what thoughts are temptations from the devil. They can be really sneaky. And honestly, the devil can infiltrate your mind. Even if you're living a sacramental life, he can really infiltrate your mind unless you start to learn what's actually true. And you have to take in the word to do that, you know, and take it in a very personal way. I sound like a Protestant, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But I think that we can learn something from our brothers and sisters who really study the Word of God. So that's one of the ways to hear God speak that's truly accessible to every one of us. And, I do talk about my vision. I do talk about hearing the Lord's voice frequently and some of the different visions I've experienced. But that's not, I also make clear, that's not the norm. That's not the thing that everybody should be expecting, striving for. And if you don't receive that, then it's like the Lord doesn't love me. It's like, no. This is kind of one way that God could speak to you. And I think I would just want to encourage people to be open to that. Like why do we think we need to be St. Teresa of Avila or St. Catherine of Siena before the Lord speaks to us? He spoke to St. Paul when he was on the way to kill Christians. Like, to just have that openness of like, hey, maybe the Lord wants to communicate with me in a way that I'm just not being open to right now. And then what that's done for me is helped me to look for his presence in many different many different places in my life. One example is like, I kind of mentioned the despondency I've been feeling, or disappointment with some projects that I thought were going to bear some fruit that they haven't been. And I prayed. I was just feeling this restlessness. I wanted out of this emotion so badly. I was like, okay, I'm just going to go pray. And I closed my eyes, and Jesus was like, will you just like, you want to come with me? And I was like, yeah, I would like that. Thank you. I'd like to go with you. And he like stepped onto a hot air balloon, which I thought was really sweet because that's on the cover of my book. I know. And that's obviously been on my mind a lot lately. And this was something related to my book. So it actually was kind of just like, oh, wow, this is really whimsical. I know you like whimsy, and I've never been on a hot air balloon ride, but to me, it seems so whimsical and adventurous. And I was like, okay, this is really cool that the Lord is just like taking me here. He wants to show me something. So the balloon goes up, and Jesus is like, well, look down at all the people below. And I was like looking down at them, and they're like little dots moving around. And I was like, well, I can see that they're there, but I can't see what they're doing. And he's like, well, you want to know what they're doing, don't you? I said, yeah. And he's like, well, if you want to know what they're doing, you're going to have to jump out of this basket, and that's not going to be good for you. And he's like, I know what they're doing. I can zoom in. I can see everything that everyone's doing all at once. But if you were to choose to take you'd have to choose to take your eyes off of me to actually, to try to zoom in. And even then you wouldn't even understand everything that's in their hearts. And he was like, just stay looking at me, and the work that you're doing, the things that you're trying to do are going to work out. Like, I'm taking care of it. You don't have to worry about it. It was really beautiful. And then the next day, I actually worked with a client who was really struggling with a lot of loneliness and disappointment. And I kind of shared that with her. And it was really cool to think that this disappointment that I was feeling, maybe the fruit of that prayer, what the Lord showed me, was for her, because she was very, very consoled in receiving that. I just told her, I was like, I was praying the other day. The Lord gave me this because I kind of am feeling the same thing you are. Maybe this was for you. And that actually, then when you start to see those connections where it's like, I got a chance to serve this young lady who's feeling very disappointed that her spouse hasn't materialized and come to, her vocation hasn't come to fruition after all these years. And to see her so consoled was really, it was really meaningful. It was really beautiful. And that's like, I call that in the book like a God nod. Just one of those little affirmations of grace of like, okay, it's not, you're not going to see the full effects ever, but the Lord just gives you these little affirmations along the way. Like, nothing that's going to materialize is like anything that's going to translate to money, power, fame. I still feel some disappointment at the thing that's not going to work out. And the thing that I wanted to work out, like I still wish that there was fruits from it, but I feel so much more, it led me to trust in the Lord,
I do.
Yeah.
Or I can begin to.
Yeah.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on that?
I have many thoughts.
Okay.
I think it's my experience of prayer. I'm kind of complicated in various ways.
Okay.
But for the things that are most basic in life, I like to think that I'm relatively simple or uncomplicated.
That's why religious life works for you.
It may. Yeah. Call no man happy until he dies. I think that my experience of prayer is that it makes possible which apart from prayer. It makes possible those things which, apart from prayer, might seem impossible. I realize that kind of, injects a sense of desperation into all human affairs, or maybe just urgency.
Yeah.
But I do think that, and maybe this is just again peculiar to me in certain ways, but when you look at life, there's a way in which life kind of comes apart, or it doesn't seem especially congruous. And you're like, here we are on the one hand, here we are on the other hand.
Yes.
Doesn't seem to line up, doesn't seem especially meaningful or purposeful. And I think that we have ways of navigating that kind of experience of alienation from our own lives. I think humor is one way in which to do so, like whimsy and caprice. I think that's a very appropriate way in which to do so. But I think at a certain point in the most difficult things, potentially most tragic things or bleak things, humor doesn't really hold up, and it becomes kind of embittered almost, like ugly. And I think it's precisely in those places where prayer shines through most brightly or brilliantly, where you kind of come before the incongruities of your life and you say, I don't know what this is, but I trust that somebody else does, you know?
Yes.
And
Sign on for the adventure, right?
Yeah.
And in that moment, you have to say, okay, I trust that this isn't, I have faith that this has a meaning that I just can't see.
Yeah.
At a certain point, you have to take that leap with different things that you're not going to see the fruit of everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so,
or the meaning.
yeah, meaning, purpose. I mean, however you conceive of it. And for me, like the experience of prayer is just kind of resting in God's, it's just resting in God simply. And insofar as there's something that I derive in addition to God, which, I mean, what else is there? And there's a kind of certainty or confidence that there is a meaning to it, that there is a purpose for it, and that I can trust that. Yeah. And that like the narrative complexity of it might not like it won't come together or won't be made manifest in the short term, maybe even in the long term, while speaking of life here on the surface of the earth, but that it is, because he said that it is.
Yes.
Yes.
And you can trust him. And do you in your prayer, do you experience a peace that you can't explain? It's just a sense of this is taken care of. But it doesn't come from a vision or a voice, but there is a peace that results.
Yes. Yeah. And I would say like at this stage of the game, I would say that I can kind of tap into that.
Yeah.
Most minutes of most hours of most days. And that like prayer is a kind of deepened or enriched kind of experience of that peace, but that like apart from that peace, life doesn't really make too terribly much sense. There are times in which things get like very busy, very stressy, potentially anxiety inducing or anger inducing or whatever, but like in those moments you can feel like your peace is threatened or even menaced, but that you're responsible for guarding your peace and then making the decisions which accomplish just that. But yeah, there also might be things that kind of crash up on the shore of your life over which you have no control, which kind of shatter you a little bit. Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, this happened too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, kind of what you're describing, I think, by their fruits they shall be known, right? It's like if I ever have an experience of prayer in which I perceive that the Lord tells me to do something that goes against the the tradition and the faith that we've been handed on. It's like, okay, that is not from the Lord, right? And then also if the fruit of it is to lead me to deeper peace and deeper trust, then it sounds like a different way of getting to kind of what you just described. Would you agree with that? Or are you a little suspicious of everything I've been saying up till now?
No.
Okay,
I would tell you if I were.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to guess my thoughts. I tell you exactly what I think.
Yeah. Because we're talking about the different styles of prayer, right? And the different I'm
saying there has
like what to expect almost from your prayer, your prayer life, right? And I don't know if people even think about that too much. Yeah. Like what should I expect from the Lord? And it's easy to say like, oh yeah, well I expect him to validate my emotions or whatever, make me feel good or anything like that. And I don't think that's not what either of us is saying. But yeah, I just didn't know because it sounds like it's all like a kind of a new thing. So I'm like, just
no,
curious.
It's not that it's new. I guess what I'm trying to suggest is, I think that we're emphasizing different parts of the life of prayer. In a certain sense, I think you're saying you can expect from the Lord, and maybe even expect more from the Lord.
Yeah.
You don't have to kind of consign yourself to the rubbish heap of an impersonal world force,
because then what are we doing? What's the point of discipleship if there's never any fruit, if there's no relationship? Like, look at how many people are leaving the church.
Yeah.
Because they haven't been taught to expect, that their prayers are heard, right? Like they just kind of go through the motions and then they're like, why am I doing this? And they leave. Yeah. But if we actually believed, like, I think people who listen to this podcast and watch this YouTube channel do believe there's someone there, but we still kind of act like orphan children.
Yeah.
Instead of approaching our Father who loves us so much.
Yep.
And in terms of like discernment, it's sort of like if my son Raphael, he's comes to me and he's like, Mom, what should I do with my life? What should I become? And I'm like, no good parent would be like, oh, well, okay, here's your plan. I want you to go to this law school. I want you to date and marry this girl. Here's the year when all these things are going to happen. Boom, boom, boom. I want you to do these extracurricular activities. Here's the courses you're going to take in college. Like, I wouldn't do that. I'd be like, well, let's see what your interests are. What do you like to do? Let's make a list. Let's go, visit colleges. Let's go, I'll help you apply for internships or whatever. I'll be here for your advice. And that kind of goes, or to give you advice, it kind of goes right back to like what you said at the beginning. You're a big proponent of freedom. It's like the Lord, if we have that security of knowing how loved we are by our Father, we're not going to approach God and be like, so tell me the plan, because I want to know this thing, and I'm not going to get out of bed until I have the certainty that I can't make a wrong move. Because then we're paralyzed, right? And the Lord's kind of like, well, like, I know, like, you love me. As long as you love me and you're trying your best, I trust you, And I think that's where all of this, when I talk about hearing the Lord's voice and seeking the Lord's voice, like, I think Pope Francis said, discernment requires a filial relationship. And I think that's just such a bomb statement right there. And do we have a filial relationship, or are all these people who are leaving the church? There's not a filial relationship. It's like the Lord is waiting to knock me down when I do something wrong. And in reality, it's like, no, you can't undo that love. Like, the love of a parent is irrevocable. I know that now since I became a parent, and I am such an imperfect parent. But like, if there was a perfect parent out there, and there is, like, whew, man, we get to choose in so much freedom. And then when we pray, we get to expect that our prayers are heard, even if they're not answered in the way that we expect. Like, they are heard, and they're treasured. Like, God loves our attention. He loves when we give him our attention. And that's just such a different outlook. That's like, I don't know, that's what my heart needs to keep going in this discipleship thing, Yeah. Yeah.
No, I mean, by way of maybe summary statement, and you can correct as you see fit, because, we're going to kind of come to the end of our time here. Because okay. I've got a little appointamento coming up. That's not a Spanish word. I just made that up. Una cita. So I think it's like, what's bedrock? You're not at risk of losing the love of God.
Yes.
We talked to a certain extent, I mean, even before we officially started the episode, about like security. Mm-hmm. So we have in God a safe haven and a secure base beyond any emotional or psychological description, of the spiritual sort, both in the order of creation and recreation. Like, God gives us our life. He gives us our agency. He gives us his most beloved Son. He gives us the life of grace, virtue, gifts of the Holy Spirit, and all manner of good things besides. And we're not at risk of losing the love of God.
Totally.
His love is not volatile. His love is not fragile. Sure, we can kind of try to chase it from our hearts by mortal sin. We can try to turn from it by clinging to created goods in preference to God, who is the uncreated good. Sure. Mm-hmm. So then if that is bedrock, then what's the nature of our building? We're meant to build on that in a relationship, and we're to dwell therein, so we're to seek a certain intimacy. Mm-hmm. And we're to do the type of things for love of God that conduce to that relationship, which build up or like kind of build out that intimacy. Now, there's a certain way in which we can tend to limit what it means to have a relationship or what it means to enjoy intimacy on the basis of an emotional or a psychological paradigm.
Totally.
But we continue to have to challenge those paradigms by a spiritual paradigm, which says what really matters at the end of the day, I believe, I hope, and I love.
Yes.
Because that's the way in which God affords us access to his interior life. And that's the way in which he gains access. He already has access, but gains access to our interior life. And so then the life of prayer, from which flows the life of discernment organically, is a matter of abiding in that relationship, cultivating that intimacy, and effectively like seeing where it takes you.
Yeah.
With the confidence, the certainty,
summarized.
the confidence that you're not going to lose the love of God, so that you are genuinely free. And you can do A or B or C or X or Y or Z.
Love and do what you will.
Yeah.
That was Augustine, I believe. Yeah, I think that was a beautiful summary of everything. There's so much more we could talk about, but I understand you have an appointment. I'll just say one more thing just about I was having these daily consolations pretty much daily, weekly, where I would receive, the Lord's voice in prayer, and I'd continue to have these. And then when I became a mom, they went away. And it was like I went into this desolation. I had postpartum depression and all that. And I started talking to a counselor who also happened to be Catholic. And she just had such a great life-giving perspective for me on this. And I was like, what happened? Like, what did I do? What did I do wrong? I feel like I need these visions more now than ever, right? And she said, Stacey, she's like, you're at a new point of maturity in the Christian life. She said, before you were receiving the milk of comfort, now you're getting the meat of a Christian life. And she said, she's like, there's nothing wrong. Like, you're actually growing in a new way, and the Lord is still directing your life, which dovetails beautifully with what you just said. So whether there's that consolation or whether we're in a period of dryness or desolation, it's the bedrock, like you said, is that the Lord loves you, and he's still working no matter what. He's still working. If you are faithful, if I still keep praying and I keep creating that space for the Lord, and it feels like nothing, which there has, on and off for years too, since I received the visions from the Lord, that's still like, it's up to me to just create that time and space for him. And it's up to him what he wants to grant me in that time. Yeah. So, yeah. Thank you, Father Gregory.
It's my joy.
Yeah. This is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have one last thought. I think sometimes people hear it, especially people who don't believe, it can sound like an abusive relationship.
Yes. I can see that.
But I think that the trust is premised upon the fact that all things work to the good for those who love God and are called according to his purpose. And that you can't pronounce upon the nature of treatment until such time as you've seen its full scope. And the fact is that none of us have access to that full scope until such time as the Lord sees fit to reveal it or mediate it.
He's seeing the 20,000 foot view. We're in the trench. Yeah. All we can see is where we are. Even like that time of that I referenced where I received nothing in prayer while my daughter was in the NICU. It's and I kept asking, like, where is the Lord? Where is God in this? And what is he doing in this time? And like you said, it did feel like this abusive relationship. But it's interesting because I can see 4 years later now, I'm like, I wouldn't trade the person that I was before that experience for the person that I am now. Even with all of the trauma, even with, my daughter undergoing 7 surgeries and having to leave our home for 4 months, and our family, my kids didn't get to meet until my youngest left the NICU because that was during COVID. So all my children were in different places for 4 months. And that's really hard when they're really little. Yeah. I was always leaving some to go to another one. And that suffering was like, cannot be quantified. But I still I see the fruit of the person that I have become. And it's like, it took so long to get there. But at the same time, I can say, the Lord still was working, and he still was present. He still loved me. Through that, he actually loved me too much to let me sit in the selfishness that I had before my daughter was born. Yeah. That's a hard thing for a lot of people to accept, I think. It's a hard thing, but it's like, just give him time. Just let him lead you, and don't give up on him. He's not giving up on you. You will never, like you said, you'll never see the full scope, but you'll probably see part of it eventually. And even seeing part of it is, in my case, it's enough. And I think for most of us, it would be enough to see I'm a better person now. Yeah.
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 Or I've met better people, and I share a life with them.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Good. Okay. So the book is Adventure Awaits. Yes. How to Interpret Your Desires and Hear God's Voice.
Yeah.
It's published by which publisher?
Ave Maria Press.
Ave Maria Press. Yeah. Nice. And people can find it where books are sold?
They can, absolutely. They can go to my website, staceysumereau.com, or nice. Ave Maria, or Amazon, the good old Amazon, wherever fine books are sold.
There you go.
Yeah.
Dig. All right. Well, thanks for taking the time, driving in from 1,000 years away.
Only 2 hours.
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
Nothing.
All right. Well, if we get you on the road soon enough, you'll have less of rush hour to deal with. So
fair enough. Yes.
All right. Turning to you, the listener. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Godsplaining. If you haven't yet, please do subscribe to the podcast, whether on YouTube or your podcast app. We have social media. I still don't know what that means, but from what I understand, you can find out what that means if you have access to the pertinent channels. People tell me that means Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok. Also, apparently, if you leave a review or some number of stars, it does things on the internet. Again, the logistics of which entirely elude me, but I trust that those who inform me of these events are not deceiving me. Also, we've got some stuff that happens at intervals. We call them events. German people call them Veranstaltungen. And we've got some coming up, so you can check out godsplaining.org to apply. And then we also have a merchandise store. Some of the items are cool. Some of them are not, but such is life. So that also is available to you through links in the description and our show notes. Know of our prayers for you. Please pray for us. And we'll look forward to chatting with you next time on Godsplaining.